Imagine a world without tools, without weapons, without even the sharpest flint knife. A world teeming with giant predators, where you are not at the top of the food chain. This was the reality for our earliest ancestors millions of years ago. How did these seemingly vulnerable, two-legged apes not only survive, but go on to conquer the planet? The answer is far more fascinating than just brute force. It lies in a unique combination of cleverness, cooperation, and some surprising biological advantages we often take for granted. Today, we journey back in time to a world before the spear to uncover the incredible survival secrets of prehistoric humans. Let's set the scene. We're talking about a period long before Homo sapiens featuring ancestors like Australopithecus. These weren't hulking cavemen. They were smaller, slower, and lacked the fearsome claws or teeth of the predators they shared the landscape with, like the formidable saber-toothed cats. So what was their secret weapon if they didn't have any actual weapons? The answer, first and foremost, was their brain. While not as large as ours, their brains were growing, giving them an edge in problem-solving and adaptability. They couldn't outfight a giant hyena, but they could outthink it. They learned to recognize patterns, predict animal behavior, and understand their environment in ways other creatures couldn't. This cognitive leap was the foundation of everything that followed. One of the most critical survival strategies was simply avoiding trouble. Our ancestors were masters of risk assessment. They knew which areas to avoid, what times of day were most dangerous, and how to use the landscape to their advantage. Climbing trees was an essential skill, a quick escape from ground-level threats. Caves and rock shelters weren't just future homes. They were immediate safe havens. They learned the territories of predators and gave them a wide berth. It wasn't about being the toughest. It was about being the smartest and the most cautious. Survival was a 24/7 game of hide and seek, and our ancestors were champions. But you can't hide forever. You have to eat. Without hunting weapons, how did they get the high-calorie meat and marrow needed to fuel their growing brains? They became the ultimate opportunists, the original masters of scavenging. Instead of taking on a massive mammoth head-on, they'd wait for a more powerful predator, like a saber-toothed cat, to make the kill. Once the big cat had eaten its fill and moved on, our ancestors would cautiously move in. This is where their basic tool use, even before sophisticated weapons, was a game-changer. Using a simple, sharp-edged rocket tool they may have found or crudely fashioned, they could slice through tough hides and scrape meat off bones far more effectively than with their bare hands and weak teeth. This was a pivotal moment. The ability to access this rich food source, left behind by others, was a revolutionary step. This act of scavenging wasn't a free-for-all. It required immense coordination and communication. And that brings us to our ancestors' true superpower: social bonds. They lived in groups. A lone early human was a target. A group was a force to be reckoned with. Working together, they could create an intimidating presence. Imagine a group of a dozen hominins shouting, waving their arms, and perhaps throwing rocks and sticks. While a single stick isn't a weapon, a dozen being thrown at you is a significant deterrent. This collective defense could be enough to scare off secondary scavengers like hyenas or jackals, allowing the group to claim the leftovers from a larger predator's kill. They looked out for each other, with some individuals standing guard while others butchered the carcass. This teamwork was their shield. This social structure wasn't just for defense. It was the hub for learning and sharing knowledge. How do you know which plants are poisonous and which are safe to eat? You learn from the elders. Where's the nearest water source during a drought? The group's collective memory holds the answer. How do you crack open a tough nut or a bone to get the nutritious marrow inside? You watch and imitate others. This cultural transmission of information was far more powerful than any instinct. Each generation didn't have to start from scratch. They built upon the accumulated wisdom of their ancestors. This social learning was the engine of their progress. Let's also not forget the incredible biological machinery they were working with. Bipedalism, walking onto legs, was a huge advantage. It freed up their hands. While other animals needed their front limbs for locomotion, our ancestors could use their hands to carry food, carry their young, and crucially, to carry and use those first simple tools. Walking upright also allowed them to see over tall grasses, spotting both predators and potential meals from a distance. And while they weren't the fastest sprinters, they were built for endurance, the ability to walk and jog for long distances under the hot African sun. A trait known as endurance running would have allowed them to track animals and cover vast territories in search of food and water, outlasting many quadrupedal animals over long distances. Dietary flexibility was another key to their success. They were not picky eaters. While scavenging provided vital protein and fat, a huge portion of their diet came from plants, fruits, tubers, nuts, and insects. Their growing knowledge of the local botany was essential. They knew what was in season, where to find it, and how to access it. Digging sticks, while not weapons, were crucial tools for unearthing nutritious roots and tubers buried underground. This omnivorous diet acted as a buffer if meat was scarce. They had a wide array of other food sources to fall back on. This adaptability meant they weren't dependent on a single food source, making them resilient to environmental changes. So when we picture our early ancestors, we shouldn't see them as cowering, helpless figures. We should see them as highly intelligent, socially connected, and incredibly resourceful survivors. They used their brains to navigate a dangerous world, their social bonds to create safety in numbers, and their unique biology to exploit new opportunities. Their survival wasn't a story of fighting. It was a story of thinking, cooperating, and adapting. They laid the groundwork, demonstrating that the most powerful weapon isn't one you hold in your hand, but the one you have between your ears, and the strength you find in the hands of those standing beside you. They were the pioneers who, without a single spear to their name, took the first critical steps on the long journey of humanity. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey back in time. If you found this fascinating, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more deep dives into our incredible human story. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.